Hi, Franklin friends. Miss Kennedy here to read another chapter of The Mouse and the Motorcycle. When we left off last time, Keith, the little boy, and Ralph, the little mouse, had met and they were talking. And Ralph was riding the motorcycle around the room after he figured out, with Keith's help, that he needed to make that sound of put, 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 put. Our next chapter is called Adventure in the Night. I wonder what adventure a little mouse will get into in the story. Hopefully, there's not a cat in this story. When Ralph had mastered riding the motorcycle on the threadbare carpet, he went bumping over the roses on the less worn parts under the dresser and bedside table. That was fun, too. "Hey," whispered the boy, "come on out where I can see you." Put, 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 put. Ralph shot out from the moonlight, where he stopped, sitting jauntily on the motorcycle with one foot resting on the floor. "Say," he said, "how about letting me take her out in the hallway? Just for a little spin, see how fast she'll go." "Promise you'll take good care of her and bring her right back," said Keith. "Scout's honor," answered Ralph, who had picked up many expressions from children who had stayed in the room. "Okay, I'll tell you what," said Keith. "You can use it at night, and I'll use it in the daytime. I'll leave the door open an inch or so that you can get in. That way you can ride it up and down in the hallway at night." "Can I really?" This was more than Ralph had hoped for. "Where do you want me to park it when I come in?" he asked. "Hmm, someplace where the maid won't step on it," answered the boy. "Oh, that's easy. Under the bed. She practically never cleans under the bed." "Yes, I know," said Keith. "I looked. There's a lot of dust mice under there." "Please," said Ralph with pain. "I'm sorry," said the boy. "That's what my mother calls bunches of dust fluff that's under the bed." "My mother doesn't," said Ralph. "Now, how about opening the door?" The boy put his hand on the doorknob. "You won't let anything happen to my motorcycle, will you?" he asked. "You know I wouldn't let anything happen to a beauty like this," said Ralph. "See that you don't, and don't stay out too late." The boy opened the door and permitted Ralph to putt out into the dim light of the hallway. Ralph had a scary feeling he was on the threshold of an adventure. There were no beds or chairs for him to dart under in case of danger. The floor creaked and someone was snoring in room 214 across the hall. Outside in the pines, the owl hooted, sending prickles up Ralph's spine. Ralph controlled the trembling of his paws while he hesitated outside the door to consider the possibilities of the hall, which was carpeted down the center, leaving two smooth highways of bare floor on either side along the baseboards. It did not take Ralph long to decide what to do. He picked up his tail, took a deep breath, and bent low over the handlebars, flattening his ears, and sped down the straightaway as fast as a motorcycle would go. He could feel his whiskers being swept back by the force of the speed. It was glorious. Ralph had never adventured so far from home before. The old wooden hotel, cooling in the night, snapped and creaked, but Ralph was brave. He was riding a motorcycle. He passed room 213, and he ran out of breath and let momentum carry him past another noisy snorer in room 211. On down the hall to the elevator, the mysterious elevator that carried people to that wonderful place Ralph had heard about, the ground floor. When Ralph came to the stairs, he stopped to look down, knowing it was impossible to ride a motorcycle downstairs, and at the same time wishing he could see for himself the wonders that lay below. He sniffed the air, and it seemed to him that he could smell the strange foods that he'd heard about: cinnamon buns with sticky frosting, and turkey stuffing, and pancakes with maple syrup. A ray of moonlight from the window glinted at the glassy eye of the mounted deer's head over the stair landing, and that startled Ralph, sending him off down the hall, past the broom closet, the linen room, to the end of the hallway, where he executed a sharp turn and started back. Exhilarated and excited by the speed, Ralph raced up and down. Once, when he heard some people getting out of the elevator, he had to duck behind the curtain of the window on the end of the hall. Toward midnight, he passed his Aunt Sissy scurrying along the baseboard. He waved and lost control of the motorcycle. Aunt Sissy stopped to stare while Ralph rode on, feeling pleased with himself at the same time sorry for his Aunt Sissy. Poor frightened thing, with only her feet to carry her from one crumb to the next. Up and down the hallway raced Ralph, until after an especially noisy burst of speed outside room 211, he was startled to hear a dog bark inside of a room. Now it was Ralph's turn to be frightened. Oh, he thought. I'd be better be careful. If there was one thing Ralph disliked, it was people who traveled with dogs. Dogs always sniffed around where they had no business sniffing. Once a dog had even barked into the mouse hole in room 215. It was days before Ralph's mother got over that one. Ralph heard someone moving around inside room 211 and looked back over his shoulder. He saw the door open and a tousled man in a bathrobe and slippers appeared carrying a little terrier. The man looked cross and sleepy as he started down the hall toward the elevator with his dog. He was walking straight toward Ralph. Put, 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 put. Realizing he was taking a chance, Ralph sped up the motorcycle. If he turned and headed back to room 215, he would have to pass the man. It was better to continue toward the elevator and hope he would flee a place to hide. He raced on down the hall. The wild barks of the little terrier told Ralph that he had been seen by the dog, if not by the man. Be quiet, muttered the man to the dog. I'm going to walk you. You don't have to wake up the whole hotel. Ralph reached the elevator, where he drove around behind the ashtray on the stand beside the door. He stopped and waited, tense and frightened. Outside, the owl hooted, was silent, and hooted again. A sudden breeze rattled the windows and banged a door, and Ralph's teeth began to chatter. The dog whimpered, but the man walked straight past Ralph, pushed a button, in a moment stepping into the elevator. Oh, phew, thought Ralph when the elevator door had closed on the sleepy man and his noisy dog. Maybe he had better lay low for a while. In a few minutes, the elevator turned to the second floor. As the man stepped out, the little dog looked over his shoulder and spied Ralph parked behind the ashtray stand. Because the dog was a captive and he was free, Ralph could not resist sticking out his tongue and waggling his paws in his ears, a gesture he had learned from children in room 215, and one he knew was sure to arouse anger. Let me at him, barked the little terrier. Cut it out, grumbled the man, fumbling with the doorknob of the room 211, while Ralph, a daredevil now, rode in a giddy circle around the ashtray. He had a feeling of cockiness he had never known before. Who said mice are timid? Ha! When the room a morning a song of birds in the pine grew louder than the snores of the guests, and dawn slipped through the window at the end of the hall, Ralph knew it was time to return to room 215. There he was shocked to discover the door was shut. Only then did he recall the draft in the night and the slam of the door. He got off of his motorcycle and pounded on the door with his fist. But what sleeping boy would ever hear a little mouse beating on a door? Ralph knew from experience that he could flatten himself and crawl under the door of room 215, but there was no way he could get his motorcycle through the crack. But even by laying it on its side and pushing, the handlebars were too wide. Ralph dismounted from the motorcycle, sat down, and leaned against the baseboard, prepared to guard the motorcycle until Keith awoke and discovered the door had blown shut. He was tired after a night of such great excitement and full of dreams. Now that he had seen the hall, he could no longer be satisfied with just room 215. It was not enough. He longed to see the rest of the world, the dining room, the kitchen, the storeroom, the garbage cans out back. He wanted to see the game room, where he had been told grown up people play games with cards and balls and paddles. He wanted to go outdoors and brave the owls to hunt for seeds. Ralph, a growing mouse who needed his rest, dozed off against the baseboard beside the motorcycle. After the experience of this night, he would never be the same mouse again. The next thing Ralph knew, Matt the bellboy was standing over him. Aren't you out pretty late? Matt asked, causing Ralph to jump to his feet even though he was not entirely awake. You should have been in bed long ago, but I suppose you were out till all hours speeding around on that motorcycle. Ralph had seen Matt many times, but this was the very first time the old man had spoken to him. He was astonished to discover that they spoke the same language. Even so, Ralph stood in front of the motorcycle. Anyone who tried to take it away from him would have to first fight Ralph. Nice little machine you got there, said Matt. Kind of wish I was young enough to ride one myself. Must be fun speeding along, making all that noise. Ralph realized that Matt was a friend. Say, he began, how about helping a fella out? Sure, said Matt. What can I do for you? Open the door a crack, just enough so I can ride through. I promised the boy I would park his motorcycle under the bed. Good place, said Matt. The maid never cleans there if she can help it. Very quickly he turned the knob, opened the door just enough for Ralph to ride through. Ralph bumped over the edge of the carpet, swung around the wastepaper basket and bedside table, and was about to drive under the bed when "Eek!" screamed the boy's mother, who was standing in the doorway between 215 and 216 in her bathrobe with her hair up in rollers. A mouse! Ralph put on a burst of speed and shot under the bed. Where? Where? Said the boy's father, coming in from room 216. Under the bed. I'll look, Mom, said the boy, jumping out of bed. Keith's face appeared under the lifted edge of the bedspread where Ralph sat trembling on the motorcycle. The boy held out his hand and beckoned. Ralph understood. He dismounted and ran up the boy's arm inside the sleeve of his pajamas until he came to the crook of his elbow, where he waited, shivering, to see what would happen next. Down at the end of the sleeve, he could see the boy's fingers close around the motorcycle. Then he felt himself being lifted as the boy rose from his hands and knees. It's just my motorcycle, said Keith. Yes, that's it, agreed his mother. The door opened and the mouse rode in. The boy's father began to laugh. Are you still dreaming? But I'm positive, insisted the boy's mother, that you saw a mouse on a little red motorcycle, finished the father. He laughed even harder then. You make it sound so ridiculous, objected the mother. Well, the father snorted with laughter. Well, perhaps I was dreaming, added the mother reluctantly. But I know I saw a mouse. I'm positive, and I'm going to report it to the management. I knew the minute we moved into this spooky old place that it had mice. Now I've done it, thought Ralph inside the pajama sleeve. That's the end of our chapter. We do have some pictures, though, a few more than we've had in other ones. The first one is Ralph riding around in the hallway. You can see Keith peeking out from the door. The other one is Ralph and the man with the dog. And then there's one with the mother seeing Ralph in the motorcycle. Huh. Mom's going to report that there are mice, she thinks, in this hotel. What do you think the people who own the hotel will do? How will this be a problem for Ralph? Because he said, oh boy, I've done it now. So I wonder what's going to happen. Hmm. Well, maybe we'll find out next time. Well, readers, I'm going to have to say goodbye for now. And until next time, see you later.